If you're watching this recording, we're waiting for people to sign on. No one has joined us yet, but this is the year ahead astrological forecasting. And when people get on, we will do a short meditation and then start talking about the celestial weather ahead. So that is what's on the docket for today, and I'm pretty excited. Well, we'll just wait until someone joins us. Okay. Maybe we'll do the breathing exercise from the first phase while we wait. So just come to a comfortable position and establish a straight spine in your seated position. And bring attention to your breath, noticing if you're tense, where that may be. Noticing the quality of your breath before you begin to modulate. And then, there's Emily. Emily, can you hear me? Are you muted? I just sent you a request to turn your video on, so hopefully that'll work. Oh, there you are.
Hi. How are you?
I'm well. This meeting is being recorded, just so you're aware.
Okay, I've been notified.
Don't say
So my voice will be recorded on your video?
Yeah.
Hi, Liz. It's Christy.
Hi, Christy.
How are
Hi,
you?
Christy.
Hi. Who else is on?
Emily.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have a Lana and a crying grandson and a quiet grandson here and an 87-year-old mom. So I might have to come in and out.
Okay. Are you going to join us for video or just stay on the phone?
Well, my Mac won't let me accept Zoom. It's saying it's not secure.
Oh, all right.
So I guess I won't be on the video.
Okay.
Which is a bummer, but that's okay.
You could try to do it from your iPhone.
Okay, I'll do that.
If you'd like.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry I'm late.
It's
It's
okay.
been so chaotic here.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said. What'd you say?
I said I'm sorry I'm late. It's been so chaotic.
Oh, I totally understand. No worries. It looks like Suzanne maybe got on. Perhaps.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Hello.
Suze, are you going to be able to join us for video, or are you going to just stay on the phone?
Oh, no, I would like to join for video.
Okay.
So mine now on the iPhone, it says Safari cannot open the page because the address is invalid.
I got that too, Christy. But if you download, you have to download the app.
There should
Oh,
be a way
okay.
to do it without the app, I thought.
I
I
know,
couldn't
right?
figure it out. Okay.
All right, I'm just going to be on the phone.
Just on the phone? Okay. It's okay with me if you're just on the phone, but if you prefer, Suzanne, if you prefer to try to get on the video, if you want another minute, we can wait.
Okay. Yes, I would prefer the video. I'm sorry.
No,
Thank you.
please. It's okay. It's no problem.
Okay. Okay, I did just download it, and now okay, I see. Did you guys do you see the meeting ID? Does anyone else need that?
I have that. I got.
Then are you saying you need the meeting ID number?
Yeah.
It is
Yes.
122-473-870.
870. Okay. Oh, goodness. Join with video. Here we go.
Hey, look, there you are.
Oh, good. Call using internet audio. That's okay. Right. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Speaking my thoughts out loud.
Right,
I
good.
can't see anybody else's face.
You can't see anyone else's face.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So,
Hello.
Okay. And Christy, are we good to go for you, or are you still working on?
No, I'm just going to do it by phone,
Okay, okay.
via phone.
That sounds good.
Because it's so chaotic here, I might have to come in and out.
All right, no problem. So, hi.
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 We'll give this a shot, doing a little guided meditation, and depending on the chaos level in your environment, don't stress about it. If you can't relax, try to participate, and if you get something out of it, wonderful. And if not, maybe at least you'll be able to intellectualize the words that I'm saying. So sit comfortably and close your eyes. And bring attention to your breath. Just start to notice your breath and consider, when was the last time you even paid attention to your breath? Maybe you haven't thought about it all day, maybe not all week. And just begin to breathe. Straighten your spine if possible. And take 3 long, deep breaths in through your nose. And blow it out your mouth. Another inhale deeply, filling your belly with breath. And exhale. Inhale deeply. And exhale, blow it out. Keeping your eyes closed, mentally lift your consciousness from your body and go in spirit to the sun. The sun is the center of our solar system. It is really the bright force around which this entire discussion will be orbiting, just like the planets. We won't talk too much about the sun, but it is with great awareness that we know that is the center of our universe as we know it. Gazing in spirit into the sun, entering into its blazing aura, and proceed to the body of the sun itself. Have no fear. You are a child of the sun, and this is your rightful home. Allow the sun's tremendous energy to flow through your entire being, invigorating and strengthening every particle in you. Visualize yourself surrounded by the warm and healing light. Now visualize the earth and send your most positive, loving, and healing thoughts through the rays of the sun toward the earth. Going to read a prayer out loud. By projecting these words of love, peace, and light, I'm sending out constructive healing vibrations. The light will help uplift, enlighten, and heal others. And visualize yourself doing the same as I speak. Love before me. Love behind me. Love at my left. Love at my right. Love above me. Love below me. Love unto me. Love in my surroundings. Love to all. Love to the universe. Peace before me. Peace behind me. Peace at my left. Peace at my right. Peace above me. Peace below me. Peace unto me. Peace in my surroundings. Peace to all. Peace to the universe. Light before me. Light behind me. Light at my left. Light at my right. Light above me. Light below me. Light unto me. Light in my surroundings. Light to all. Light to the universe. And inhale deeply, imagining a sphere of light all around you. This is your aura. It's filled with healing light. Exhale if you haven't already, and take another deep inhale together. Hold it and release. Flutter your eyes open. And we will begin. So I wanted to start that way as an exercise to get us sort of all into the same space and to connect to source so that we could connect to each other and kind of get out of whatever it is you were up to before you logged on. I was like driving around and getting things together, so that helped me to just come to you, and now here we are. So we'll get started talking about the decade, and we won't talk for too long about this. We'll spend more time talking about the year, but there's some interesting celestial weather ahead. And I don't know if this is obvious. When I say celestial weather, I just mean the transits and movement of the planets and other celestial bodies like the sun and the moon, and talking about how those movements will impact the energy here on the planet and the people on the planet, the people like us. So the theme that I was feeling into for the decade is a global economic and systematic oppression resulting in social and economic shifts. So to me, when I consider what's coming up with some of the planetary movements through the next 10 years or 11 years, really, because this is year 0 of the decade 2020, we'll have a lot of action with the planet Uranus. And the planet Uranus just moved into Taurus, where it's shifting the way that we're going to perceive value systems. And the way that this planet operates is to really shake things up. It's a revolutionary, and it wants to turn over the apple cart so that we can start over. And that could feel really intense and disorienting. And it may be that as power shifts, if we're going to take some of the power that the people, the 1% are holding and redistribute it, it's going to get yucky. And there is a lot of conditioning around how the way that it's been working is good for us as folks that we know are not a part of the 1%. So our lives will be shaken up as well. Just our belief in the way that things should be will be shaken up, but also it could have physical and monetary effects. But in the space between now and 2025, I think is actually some time to dig into making money on a personal level and beginning to strip away any negative associations we have with abundance and receiving valuable things. We're all here living on the West Coast. That's what we all have in common on this call. And so we're all a part of this economy and capitalistic culture here in the United States, where we know that money is the ruler. So really a lot of times we're talking about money when we're speaking about abundance. And there's nothing wrong with accumulating wealth. That's something to accept so that we can actually become the receivers of the power and the wealth as things become disrupted. So opening up to that in the next 5 years, I think, is important as we see some planetary movements that'll be could be pretty intense. I think that Trump is an example of some of the action that's taking place in Capricorn right now. Jupiter and Saturn are both in Capricorn, and it's creating this pressure in terms of folks in positions of power. One of the archetypes associated with Capricorn is the CEO, and also like the dictator or general. And Trump is obviously very business savvy and very good at barking out orders. He's an example of that archetype. And that archetype exists whether we have Trump or not. And that vibe in this country exists whether or not Trump is president. So to kind of see him as an example of this human condition that exists, and also understand that there is an opposite to Trump. There is an opposite leader who exists and actually exhibits the positive sides of Capricorn. And so what Capricorn can see, and what Jupiter is lighting up in Capricorn, along with Saturn, which rules Capricorn, is this sort of ability to kind of take a look and make decisions and advise on how to proceed. That's a very positive attribute for Capricorn, is to see what needs to be done and then advise and make sure that it gets done. And so we can look to some folks, we can look for that so that we can invite it in and not just focus so much on this blaring mean guy. Like he's just like, you know, and instead of paying so much attention to that, we can also think like, well, where are we being guided and advised in ways that actually feel supportive of our health and well-being on every level, physical, financial, and otherwise. I think those are some of the questions we're going to be faced with during this decade, and specifically up until 2025. And in 2025 is when there's a shift. Neptune has been at home in Pisces, where it's nice and comfortable for, I don't know, a decade. And it's going to move into Aries, where things are going to really get shaken up. Aries and Neptune don't necessarily get along. Aries wants to take a lot of action, and Neptune is this sort of misty and mystical quality. It can also be delusional. So if we take some of the negative associations with these two players here, we see that Aries can be violent and impulsive, and that Neptune can create delusion or escape. It could get yucky. That just doesn't feel comfortable. And what we might encounter is like delusional acts of violence where you're just baffled by what's going down. And people will also be baffled by their own behavior because they won't understand what the deal is either. The ways that we can prepare for some of the pressure, and this might not be something that you feel in a personal way on a daily basis because the outer moving planets have this big picture effect on us that we see over time. But if you've been observing that things have been if you've been observing a theme, that's where you can kind of begin to understand it. It's not going to be the explanation in most cases for why your dog escaped out the front door. That's not the kind of thing we're talking about, but to sort of feel like you're really uncomfortable with the state of humanity. It's like those kinds of conversations where you're just like, oh, it's so hard. But what we can do personally is to strengthen our nervous system, to find ways to come back to ourself and just connect with what we know is in alignment for us and stop looking to the outside, because the outside is not going to be giving us a lot of support in feeling good. That's an internal job. And the celestial weather, to me, as I'm looking at it coming up in the forecast, just says it's time more than ever for a personal practice where you define peace and give yourself access to it. Because walking out the door unprepared, you will just begin to react, and your entire day will be a reaction. And reacting is good. The squirrel runs in front of you. When you're driving down the street, you react and you stop so that you don't hit it, but you don't want your entire day to just be a reaction of someone else's behavior. Okay, so let's see. Neptune, Saturn moves into Aquarius and out of Capricorn. It'll be there for 2.5 years. So it's in 2020 that it makes this shift. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. And so while Saturn is very much a conventional and rules Capricorn, it's comfortable in Capricorn, it also rules Aquarius. And it's an interesting shift that we're making. The modern perspective of Aquarius is this radical revolutionary. And so I think we can see, what we might see is that even amongst some of the ruling big business or government, we might actually see some shifts begin to take place. But what happens before change is disruption, and that can feel yucky. And I don't know why I'm making this political, maybe because it's just so up in the air. But Bernie Sanders, just even with his hair, is an example of an Aquarian energy, because I have an Aquarius moon. So the Aquarius energy can be just like, you can see it in the hair. It's like we got electrocuted. But there's a neat kind of electricity to that brings a different energy to something that might be stale or not working. And whether or not we have Bernie Sanders for a president, it's not irrelevant. Of course, it's a relevant discussion. But in terms of shaking things up, it is possible that despite whatever outcome, we can have the shakeup. And actually, if Trump remains in office, some of that pressure in the negative way, what feels negative, can actually create some of the change, because it's so pressurized and frankly so awful that people are responding to that. So that's my political astrology forecast. But it's just so relevant. Things are so gnarly here with the government that it's like hard not to talk about. Another thing to kind of come back to the money aspect is so let's see, we're thinking about Uranus coming into Taurus. Taurus knows what it values. It's a little bit of a hoarder. It accumulates wealth. So this disruptor is coming in and making things different. But Uranus is also related to the internet. And what I think might be coming up is more and more alternative ways to exchange money with people. So we see it right now with Venmo and PayPal and all that good stuff, we're still using our banks because our banks are holding the money. And you can't do that, as far as I know, without the bank. But I think that that might be a part of the shift, is that we're moving away from the banking system, the traditional banking system, and moving towards something that we haven't been able to anticipate. Who would have thought that you could just like hold your phone and then hit some buttons and money would be in your friend's phone? It's just like, it's so crazy. If you'd been telling me about that when I was in high school, I would have thought that you were insane. But that's the kind of thing that we can expect, is more changes like that. And we just don't know what it will look like. And perhaps there are some folks who are already working on it and they have an idea of what it'll look like, but it hasn't come to the mainstream yet. And I'm a little bit of a late bloomer in terms of technology. So I don't usually get that kind of thing until it's already like a wave, you know. But the reason I'm saying this is because with Pluto being in Capricorn as well, and then moving into Aquarius, we have this energy that feels new to us, but it was there before in the 1700s. And that was during a time when the banking system was established by the Rothschilds, and it totally shifted the way that we view currency as a people and set us up for this, you know, lots of people, or several people at the top having a lot of money, and then a lot of people down below working to support that. And so we get a reboot at this time. It was rebooted then, and we get to do it now coming up in this decade. And I think it's really exciting. I'm pretty happy about it. So that's my spiel on the decade. And I think I covered everything. One of my notes is that this will be noticeable in this decade, but it'll also be observable broadly over the next 300 years. So, you know, your ancestors may end up the ones who actually enjoy peace and harmony. Maybe peace and harmony is far out, but we're a part of the big change. And that's kind of cool too, to consider that you are here. So my astrological belief system that I developed mostly through evolutionary astrology tells me that I wanted to be here during this time for a reason. And in yogic philosophy, I've heard from multiple folks that we really were trying to get into this pressurized experience so that we could grow and be impacted and be impactful within the pressurized dynamic. So that's kind of cool. If you're having a bad day, you just say, oh, I wanted to incarnate. So why? And I don't know, I posted this quote on Instagram. I'm not sure if you all saw it, but I think it already expired. It's a relevant quote here. Okay, so it's a quote from the poet Rainer Maria Rilke, and it is, "Let everything happen to you. Beauty and terror, just keep going. No feeling is final." And in yogic philosophy, and it ties into the evolutionary astrology too, the thing is that it's true that we have negative experiences that feel bad, but the story or the idea here is that you wanted all of it. You cannot feel the good without having felt the bad. It's just how it works on the polarity planet that we have here. So that's a little bit about my background, how I am approaching the astrology. And when we talk about the forecast for this year, it can feel daunting. There's so much that's going to happen that might mess with you, but it's been happening anyway. So as long as you've been alive, things like we're going to discuss have been happening. You haven't been paying attention to them. So it's not like knowing this is going to make it worse for you. It doesn't. What I'm attempting to do here is say, like, here is the energy that's going to be available. And then also we're talking about your personal energy and what is the highest energy that you can choose for the day, for the time, or maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, you're working on something in particular. What can you tap into that'll actually be useful for you? How can you feel empowered with the weather that's coming up? So I sent you all a sheet that is listing the celestial weather forecast, and you can put that into your planner. You can put some of it, you can put all of it. It is a lot of information. It's really up to you. Some of this may not really mean anything to you, and I'll talk to you about what the essence is, why it's relevant to even put it on the sheet, why it matters, the transit. But you know yourself, and whether or not, like, looking at it and seeing that Saturn just entered Aquarius, is that going to be meaningful for you? Maybe not. Maybe you don't need to write it down. But if there's something specific, a specific timing situation, thingy, an event that's coming up, you might want to check it out. And then you could ask me, and we could, does anyone have like a timing or event question?
I do.
You do. Okay. So let's talk about that at 1 o'clock.
Okay, perfect.
Because you need to get off at 1:30, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about events at 1 o'clock. I'm just going to make myself a little alarm so that I can focus on talking and not worry about the time. And we'll just start talking a little bit about the sheet. So I'm going to hop around just a little bit and talk about Mercury retrograde first, because I feel like this is the one that folks have the most experience with because of the memes and people complaining and ranting about it on social media when it happens. So Mercury, the planet, is responsible for or affects most communications in technology and machinery. So what happens during a Mercury retrograde that people often complain about is that computers seem to spaz out more than usual. And not just computers, like elevators break down, car trouble can happen, miscommunications definitely. And in particular, I think that it's the texting and emailing that's probably the most at risk for getting messed up. So we know that Mercury retrograde happens multiple times in a year, and this year it happens 3 times. The most I think it happens is 4 times. The definition of a planetary retrograde, what it is and why it matters. So retrograde means that it looks like it's moving in backwards motion, but it isn't. It's the way that we are orbiting the sun, and the planet in question, in this case it would be Mercury, is orbiting. It creates an illusion from our position on Earth that the planet is moving backward, when really it's not. But the effect that it has is that the energy that usually is coming through and creating little like an effect here on Earth, a little tick effect is how I experience it. I don't really know how to explain it. It's like the way it usually comes in and makes us tick is backward. So it messes things up, but it also gives you an opportunity to do something different. So Mercury retrograde is not bad in and of itself. What we can do is anticipate when Mercury retrograde is coming up and be aware of how it does create some chaos. Chaos because it's not going the way we expect it to go. It's not evil, it's just not happening the way that we usually expect it to go. This would affect negotiations, signing contracts, air travel, or any travel anywhere that there are like main computer systems controlling things that you're going to get into and then travel around. You would just want to be careful, not because you're at risk or unsafe, but because you want to see, like, is the flight on time? Make sure that everything is going according to plan. Give yourself plenty of time. Like if you're going to call for an Uber to get to the airport, you'd want to give yourself plenty of time in case like you lost your Wi-Fi connection or something like that. Just giving yourself extra space to get on the plane and get where you need to go. And then staying as graceful as possible when things do go wrong, because fighting it and getting mad will get you nowhere. It's different to say, I'm so frustrated because this isn't going well, than to just treat people badly because you're pissed off that you're leaving 2 hours late. Like, it's just not going to help you to be pissed off, especially during a Mercury retrograde when everyone's all kind of funky. And then maybe the most important and most relevant would be really just double check if you send something out, particularly for work, if there had been a deadline, something important that you email or send electronically. If you don't hear confirmation from the person or people or organization that you were sending it to, you'd want to pick up the phone and have a voice-to-voice conversation like, hey, John, did you get my email? And then John will say yes or no and whatever. You don't want to be making assumptions, because if they didn't get it, you can surely expect that they're making assumptions about you, that you didn't send it. So you want to just clear that right up, and not by sending another email, by picking up the phone. Hello. 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 So Mercury retrograde, there are 3 different time periods that it happens, and it's in your notes. I'm not going to be reading out the dates to you unless you think I need to. No.
No, I don't think you need to.
Great. Yeah. You'll see that there are some comments. I'm going to go back up and just discuss how Saturn is in Capricorn, then enters Aquarius, then Saturn's own retrograde motion eventually brings it back to Capricorn, then it'll go direct and enter into Aquarius, where it'll stay for a while. What is kind of neat about that, but can also be difficult, is that whatever Saturn is picking up when it's going straight, and this is the same for any of the retrograde motions, so the planet's going direct and then it's backtracking over what the ground it just covered. And if it's affecting you, then you can expect it's going to affect you again, because the planet's going to reverse and go forward. So you've been going forward over this territory. For me, Saturn was transiting over sort of an important part of my chart. It's making me question how I appear in the world and how I'm presenting, how people understand me, how I understand them. And then it's going to back up and go over it again. It's like, ow, wait, not again. Well, it's giving you an opportunity to make sure that you got the lesson or whatever valuable thing you can extract from it. It's giving you opportunity to do that again. And all of the retrogrades present those opportunities. Jupiter is, I made some notes about Jupiter's conjunction with Pluto, and that is, it's a little bit of a scary transit, because Jupiter makes everything more expansive, and Pluto is this deep sort of compulsive energy. And to me, it represents shining a glaring light on what we have buried. And that might feel yucky. So prepare for that, but it's not until, well, it happens twice. It happens many times, actually, and that must be because of the retrograde. So Jupiter will have a retrograde, and so will Pluto. It just might feel like, what in the actual fuck is happening to me? I thought I had that hidden. So-and-so discovered it. You might be getting angry because the discovery has been made, because this is just stuff that you did not want to touch. So just use so much compassion for yourself, and that will help you not murder people when you're mad about their discovery. So get ready for that. And Venus will have a retrograde period. The faster the planet moves, the shorter the retrograde time, but the more often that a retrograde will happen typically. We've got our Venus retrograde for about 6 weeks in the springtime. A Venus retrograde can bring old romantic relationships back up to the surface. So you could hear from an ex or just find yourself thinking about an ex. The other thing that might come up is old romantic problems from your current relationship. So something old that is coming up again that needs to be resolved. And that's a nice opportunity to dig in and make some progress. And you're doing it from a different perspective. All of the retrogrades offer a different perspective, and it can be really useful. So one way that I described it was, imagine seeing yourself and in a positive light, but from the rear view mirror or the side mirror, just getting a different view of you. Instead of looking at yourself face on in the bathroom mirror, you're seeing you behind the car in the rear view. It's like, what's she doing? She looks great though, but I don't usually see her like this. And that's some interesting reflection. There's reflection available there. We've got a lot of new moons and full moons noted here. So obviously these happen every month. I don't know if it's obvious. It does happen every month. So each month we've got a new moon, which is when the moon goes dark and then begins to ever so slightly fill with light again until it ends up 2 weeks later to be full. And the way that it works in terms of how they move through the signs is that the new moon is in the same sign as where the sun is. So we just had a new moon on Friday in Aquarius, and the sun just entered Aquarius. We just entered Aquarius season. And that's how the pattern works. But what we also get during this Aquarius season is a full moon in Leo. And Leo is in opposition to Aquarius. Aquarius is giving us the really global view, a humanitarian project. Aquarius is not thinking too much about self. It's actually sort of repulsed by the idea that we would be so interested in just ourselves, because Aquarius's job is to create change and to make things better for the whole and for the entire tribe. But Leo's job, and they're both really important players, Leo's job is to express creatively and to be seen and celebrated and applauded. So we get both, because we have the sun energy in Aquarius and we have the new moon in Aquarius that already took place. And on February 9th, we have the full moon in Leo, where we get to celebrate our expression. And as the moon builds energy leading up to that, it is a great time to produce something. So the moon's getting a little more lit each day now. It is what's called waxing. This is when the energy is available to build something. And you can, today I would still call it, it's within the new moon vibes. It's 72 hours from the official new moon, which was at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. So we've got just the last of it to use up now. If you haven't done the goal and intention setting from phase or week 3, then today is a great day to do that and really think about, what do you want to create? And you can think about it on a smaller scale of just during this lunar cycle that we're in. So just using the available moon energy for just right now. So maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's as simple as, I intend to keep a small promise to myself until the moon is full, just as an experiment, something like that. And then the small promise could be drinking water or going for a walk every day, even if it's just 5 minutes. I don't know what it is, but it's a good time to explore setting an intention with the new moon vibes, letting it build. And in terms of creativity for Leo, we could make it even more interesting. It could be actually a thing that you want to share and give yourself the opportunity to receive accolades. And that can be a very powerful usage of the Leo energy. To tie in Aquarius, we could think about, how can we make sure that what we're sharing with the world is good for the world or with our community, or whatever scale it is. And consider that with what you produce. And in most cases, what you're producing is probably not going to cause any harm. And to me, creation in and of itself is beneficial to the planet because it feels good and we want to do it. And so that is one way that we can elevate the vibe for everybody. So we say, aha, Aquarius, you think we shouldn't be creative and expressing ourselves? Well, it's good for everyone. As long as no one gets hurt, it's good for everyone. And then Aquarius is like, oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. Somebody's got to make sure. So I have listed the new moons and the full moons. I'm not going to talk about the archetypal imagery for every sign and planet. That's something you can Google pretty easily if you're curious about getting to know those more. I think it's super fun. You may not. Thinking about how the sun moves through the signs can give you some perspective. If you're thinking, wow, it just feels really heavy right now. It's really deep right now. And then you realize, well, it's Scorpio season. This is what Scorpio season is for. And then you can just kind of tap into, okay, well, how can I make good use of this? Or how is my energy actually not compatible with what's happening right now? If you're being two-faced during Scorpio season, you're going to be found out and it's going to be terrible. So make sure that you're in alignment with yourself and you're being true to yourself, because Scorpio only wants authenticity and nothing else will do. Okay. I know that it was not easy to figure out the personal planetary phases and days, and that the concept is pretty, it's kind of hard to take in. But here's sort of the general idea. General idea, according to this theory, is that the beginning of our year actually starts with the spring equinox on March 21st. And that is the beginning of the sun period, the sun time, the sunny time. It's a pretty easy correlation to make in the Northern Hemisphere because we associate it with spring, and that's pretty clear. So we have this nurturing sun energy for 52 days, and then we move into the moon time, where we experience an opportunity to reflect. And this is all in the information that I shared with you already. What gets a little tricky then is to consider your personal energy may be a lot different than that. And because of the time that you were born, you're going to need to calculate your own personal little calendar of what the phases are like for you. And when you start considering, okay, well, the universal energy is Saturn, and let's see, I think it's tomorrow that we enter Saturn universally. But my personal energy is something else. So for me, I'm still in Venus for another 10 days after we enter Saturn tomorrow. But for me, it feels like I can understand that right now is a time for the universal vibe to bring us into taking care of things. Saturn just wants to take care of our obligations, and it doesn't really want to have a good time. The holidays are over. It's kind of like there's not that much fun to look forward to. It's sort of yucky. The weather here in Portland has been pretty yucky. But it's also the time when, if we think back throughout the ages, you can imagine folks eating like preserved food. They're making do with what they have, and they're still living. It's like, you just take care of what needs to be done. Here's the thing. No matter where you are, even if you're in Saturn while the universal energy is in Saturn, just take care of your obligations so that you feel okay about yourself. And I'm not talking about the obligations that are being put on you that you know are not yours, because you know some of this stuff is not yours. You didn't really accept it. Somebody tried to put it on you, but the stuff you know. You have a child, you're going to feed them, right? You're going to clean up after them. You have a cat, you're going to take care of the cat. You're going to feel guilty if you don't take care of the kitty litter, but you go to a party and then something shitty is going to happen at the party. Take care of the cat and then go to your party, right? It's just, this is a time to just make sure you're doing what you know is the right thing to do, not what your neighbor thinks is the right thing for you to do, but what you know, what you've taken on, and what feels like your personal responsibility. So taking responsibility is a big deal. But then let's say you have Venus energy happening at the same time. You want to utilize and nurture that as well and start becoming aware of how you feel. And if you feel a lot of resistance to what's happening with you, maybe just kind of take a look at the celestial weather and consider, am I working against or with what is available right now? And is there a way that I can do something differently to get back into a state of grace or flow? So to the best that we can, to just utilize the energy to feel empowered and tap into it, even though it's like a yucky Saturn time that we're facing. It doesn't have to be depressing, although it could be if you want. If you want to be depressed, it's a great time to be depressed. It's also a good time to just like clean out your closet. And if you know that you want to clean out your closet anyway, it's a great time to do it. You don't have to wait until spring to do spring cleaning. You could do some cleaning now and just get it done, you know, while the energy supports it. Because when the sun comes out, you want to play. And you should. You should play. So then we have the days of the week. And this just takes it down to a smaller, more concise level. So what day is it today? Today is Sunday, the day of the sun. For me, it is my Venus day. So it's a lovely day for me. I like Sundays. And I suggest that if you like Sundays too, because it is the day of the sun, you should celebrate it and try not to get depressed about Monday. Let yourself be depressed on Monday because that's actually moon day. So make the most of the sun day energy. And then when you're considering scheduling, which we'll start talking about shortly, just kind of utilizing what's available and playing around with it. Maybe you're not going to find that this really rings true for your experience, and that's okay. But I just encourage you to start taking a look at it and see if things go a little smoother. So in general, when I'm thinking about like, okay, if I want to have a meeting and a lot of communicating, or maybe networking, maybe a good networking day would be my Mercury day. And so the universal energy would support that on a Wednesday. And for me, it would be supported on a Thursday, on a Friday. Friday is my Mercury day. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. If you want to have a meeting, just kind of play around. If it doesn't matter which day of the week it is, you have to pick one. You may as well pick something that you know would have supportive energy for it. Okay, so let's transition. Actually, Christy, I want to start talking about the goal setting and the describing words, but before I do that, I'm curious about what you have that you know is coming up that you want to zero in on.
Oh, well, so I think you might be able to you might cover it with just kind of the date stuff. I saw April 4th as Jupiter with Pluto, and that's the day I'm traveling to Mexico with my sister.
Okay.
And it's also my half birthday.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's the only thing. We don't have to go deep into it or anything,
Okay.
but that was like what came straight to my face.
April 4th?
Yes.
You're traveling with your sister on April 4th when Jupiter makes the conjunction to Pluto.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great opportunity to connect deeply with your sister and buckle up your seatbelt. I don't know. Maybe it'll be not a big deal. But I'm curious about what that energy could present for you too. And I would say like attempt. Well, here's one thing I will say about it. If you attempt to pretend like things are okay, or if your feelings are hurt but you pretend like they're not, that's not going to work during that energy. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Like being really authentic will be important.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Does that seem doable?
Cool.
Okay.
Well,
And then otherwise,
we'll
let's see. April 4th. You'll be there while there's a full moon in Libra.
Oh, cool.
Right? Because it's on April 8th. Will you still be there?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Can you go to the ocean and look at the full moon?
Yes.
Okay. That's so dreamy. I like that. And I like that for you since you're a Libra. And the moon the full moon will be in Libra. When's your sister's birthday?
That's cool. June, sometime late June.
Maybe she's a Cancer.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see. I can tell you when her birthday is. Her June 27th.
Yeah, she's a Cancer. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear how it goes. I'm curious. Let me know.
Okay.
Okay, so somehow we lost Suzanne, we did lose Suzanne. Okay. Well, we'll just
I'm going to take a quick break and say goodbye to my daughter. I think she's leaving now, but I'll come right back, okay?
Okay, I'm going to talk to Emily about her goal.
Okay, perfect.
So, Emily.
Hi.
Tell me, did you find a goal?
Well, I did find a goal.
Yeah.
It's pretty relevant to now to find a job.
Okay. Yeah.
That I want to feel, and then I wrote down the feelings.
Okay.
I want to feel appreciation and joy. I want to feel all the laughter with the new coworkers.
Oh, yeah.
I want to find a job that I feel good about and that it somehow helps our community. Those are the ones that I wrote down.
Yeah, those are really good.
Fulfillment. Did I say that? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Movement. I kind of picture myself moving around a lot, not stuck at a computer.
Okay.
And
then, so for the phases that I was talking about, the universal phases and the personal phases for the planetary movements, because your birthday is so close to the equinox, you have almost the same pattern as the universal energy. So you entered your Saturn phase just a couple of days ago. And that is an interesting time to be looking for a job because it doesn't feel like big manifesting energy, but it is supportive of being responsible, and having a job and going to work is like responsible territory. So it is compatible in that way. Mm-hmm. And I would think about like it would be very relevant to making sure that you are taking care of those things that I was talking about before, the things that you've taken on as personal obligations. Right. And in the same way to maybe evaluate the obligations that you have taken on and discern whether or not they're actually yours, see what you can release. Because part of what happens with Saturn, I use this I imagine these rings of Saturn. Okay. These rings of Saturn. And what happens during Saturn periods and other Saturn aspects is that it gets tighter. And what is within the rings is like the basket of life, your life. And so thinking about what you have in there and how you have been using your energy, because Saturn is like, you don't have the energy to do all this anymore, these 52 days, Emily White. And it's like, well, So if you get proactive and kick some of the stuff out of the bucket or basket that you actually don't value that much, to make sure that you're focusing your energy on what actually matters to you. So you don't lose out on something that is important, because you may waste some energy on something that actually isn't really the thing for you.
Right.
But paying bills on time, if you've got the money, just do it. Like, do the little things and just show the universe like you are moving money and you're moving through. So it's a bad time to spend money on anything like pretty or indulgent, but it's a good time to spend money on things that are important and it makes you feel responsible. And then it's also with the energy that we have of the moon building, it is a good time to just take another quick pass at your resume or whatever you have, whatever iron you have in the fire, to just look at it, review it. If you're going for an interview, consider what you're going to wear, or consider what you're going to ask to just determine whether or not it's a good fit for you.
Right.
And shift that so that you're interviewing them also. Because I think that's actually the most important thing about an interview, is to find out if the culture is compatible.
Right.
So, okay, so that's a nice kind of easy goal. Thank you. And it's nice that it's Saturn time. For scheduling interviews, do you know which day of the week that you were born?
I looked it up and then I forgot. I think it might have been a Sunday. No, I don't know. I think it might have been a Sunday.
Okay. Well,
I don't remember.
You could check that out and then consider if you have an option for determining which days of the week that you go in for an interview, or even a phone interview, that you would make a suggestion. It would be on one of the more beneficial days, like a Jupiter day or Sunday, if that's possible. Also, a Mercury day is a great day for an interview.
What day is a Tuesday?
Well, it depends. A Tuesday.
Oh, it depends on when I was born.
Well, gotcha. But you can also consider the universal energy too. So that helps give you more options. And then I just like to set intentions around it. Like, I'm using the universal energy of the sun today because I'm having a sunny day. Damn it. That's what I'm doing. But you can tap into the universal energy. So if we're looking at it that way, and it will be true for you if you're born on a Sunday as well. But I would say Wednesday or Thursday, ideally. Friday is also possible, but people don't really feel worky on Friday. They feel the energy of they just want to go to get drinks. So
happy hour.
Yeah. So I like Wednesday and Thursday the best. But otherwise, I think that Tuesday is better than a Monday.
Right.
Monday is this internal and reflective energy that can also be moody, because people really don't want to be at work. They want to be at home with a cup of tea.
Right.
Okay. So then what we do is consider the feelings that you establish, and we don't have to go into detail about this, but you would look at your calendar, at your planner, and you will start to actually prioritize doing things in life that facilitate the feelings you're looking for. So,
Hi, sorry, I'm back. Just to let you know, so that I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Christy. So we're talking about the describing words that you came up with that support your goal, or that describe your goal, and doing a little bit of cheating by achieving those feeling states in your current experience before you attain your goal. So looking at the energy of the week, the universal energy or your personal energy or both, you can start to schedule in, okay, well, my Venus day is a great day to get together with a girlfriend for a lady date, or to have a date with your romantic partner. It's also a great day to shop for something beautiful. So if you need to get a new outfit, and there are sometimes things that you need to spend money on while you're getting a job, like if you have to do dress code stuff or whatever, but a great day to go shopping and try clothes on is Friday or your personal Venus day. The only risk there is that Venus doesn't really care about budgets, so you have to just remind her. Venus rules Taurus and Libra, and they're like, let's get all the pretty things. Yeah. But so let's go to Suzanne. Let's talk about your goal.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, sorry. So it's a goal to
Yeah, a
like
goal, something for this year.
I just really want to establish a yoga practice and just deepen it. And I sort of tend to like look outward and like to kind of gauge what's working.
Yeah.
And I really want to like I just want to feel it and be it and just have it as mine. And I can use it as for whatever I need. But I really want that to be a daily practice.
You want to have a daily yoga practice.
Yes.
Okay. And then have you thought about how, when Suzanne has a daily yoga practice, how could you describe her? What are 3 words that would describe Suzanne having the daily yoga practice?
Grounded. Um, hmm, Lovely.
Mhm.
And I don't know, grounded, lovely, and just present there.
Yeah. Present, grounded, and lovely.
Yes.
I mean, your goal to me sounds really doable, especially if you're willing to do small amounts of yoga and give yourself credit for it in terms of the daily practice.
Right.
But it's actually a really good time to add a practice. During the waxing moon is a great time to add things to your life, things that you want. And one way to work with the moon is to think like, okay, so I'm adding yoga. Today I'm going to do yoga. And for the next, let's see, I think we have 12 days left till the full moon. For the next 12 days, I'm going to add yoga every day. Maybe even adding 1 minute each day to make it longer, but also giving yourself credit even if you can only do 5 minutes, whatever the thing is. And then when the moon begins to wane after it's full, you could take a look at how it's going and make decisions about what you could prune to make space for a little more. And that would be a nice time to release something. So you would keep what you built during the moon's building phase, during the waxing phase. And so let's say you've done it. You're at the daily practice, you've been doing it, you're doing 5 minutes a day and it's going well. You're going to keep it. So you're not releasing that. You keep it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
then you can look at like, oh, but this thing I've been doing is actually eating up so much of my time. You might look at like, I actually spend 2 hours looking at my phone every day. And given that, I'm going to get rid of some of that phone time, even if it's losing 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then allow it to shift and you can give more to your practice. But even on just a super micro level, considering in a moment, like, is there a way that you can move your body in terms of the way that you're sitting at any time that would help you to feel more grounded or more lovely? And if you're future tripping and being anxious, you might notice that you're not present. And then you can have off the mat yoga, coming back to the present moment, that then coming back to the present moment actually gives you what you wanted in the first place, which was to be present. Yeah, what a nice and lovely goal.
Thank you. I also, it's so crazy. I actually have an audition tonight.
Oh,
I haven't had an audition. I haven't been in a show in like 11 years. And it just sort of fell on my plate. And I met a coworker that I had never met before, and she encouraged me to audition for this thing. And like, it's here I am auditioning. And like, that is also a big goal, is to just stand in like who I am, and like I am a performer. Like, just I don't need to hide from that. I don't need to like be afraid that that's too frivolous. Like, that's who I am. And so today is actually like it just feels like a really big day for me. So
yeah, what a wonderful way to have
the Leo energy and stuff. I was like, what?
Yeah, and you're in your Venus period. You're in your Venus until, trying to do math.
Yeah.
I think you have another 3 weeks of Venus period.
Okay.
Which is lovely. So then if you move into, and you will, when you move into Saturn in 3 weeks, it's some of the stuff I was saying about the obligations and responsibility, because you'll get into Saturn where things will get tighter. And that doesn't mean that you have to give up your dream or suddenly start thinking that it is too frivolous to be expressive and to be an actor. But it means to not flake out on things that are important to you.
Yeah.
That aren't glamorous. Just to
Right.
take care of them. And that will actually support you in the way of allowing your expression to exist and to flourish. Because if you skip that step, things will get murky and weird. And and it'll be internal, but it'll be reflected in your external environment too, because you'll be feeling guilty. And then it'll be like, here, this shitty thing happened, and here, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I knew it. I can't be an actor and a mom. It's like, you'll destroy the whole thing. But then also what I was saying to Emily about the basket, I can't remember if you had been off the call during that part. Did you hear?
Getting tighter? Yeah.
Is to consider, are all of my obligations and responsibilities really mine? And be clear about that. And keep what's yours. So that you're not totally smashed by it. Or, like, it's too much to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a tendency of mine too, is to just get like super bogged. Just
right.
And just be like, this is terrible. I knew adulting was hard and awful.
Where's my time machine?
Yeah, exactly.
Christy, what was your goal? So I have two. I already achieved a couple goals already because I've had a lot of energy since December, and so I started painting at the senior center. I'm taking a painting class because I need to be creative, and then also I started volunteering at Cat Town in Oakland. Mm-hmm. So the two new ones I have are one is to get out into nature more. And also the other one is to enhance my intuition.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
And maybe they go together, right? I just thought of that.
I think they are related. To get out into nature more and to enhance your intuition. Yeah, so I have heard from yoga teachers and maybe even in some books about how the more grounded we are, the higher we can fly. And I think intuition for me lives sort of up in the ethers, and through, at least from the chakra perspective, at the third eye is where the intuition lives, which is upper. And then the lower connection to the ground is in our root. And so one way to balance the root chakra is to be out in nature. So they connect to me that way for sure. But then also it's just so soothing to be in nature.
Right.
Okay, so for the sake of the exercise, getting out into nature, imagine Christy is out in nature. How do you describe Christy having that experience or doing that?
She's connecting to her higher power.
And can you see it? Like if you're looking at her, can you see that?
No.
No. Just curious. Just curious.
She's peaceful. And hopeful.
So she's connected to her higher power, peaceful and hopeful, out there more often in nature. And so when we think about the energy that's available in terms of how to get that in your life in a practical way for scheduling, you can think about your own personal week. And I would say a great day to enjoy nature. I don't know. I feel like you could enjoy nature on most of the days. The moon day might be a little bit tricky because it can feel like you want to be in hermit mode on moon day, but I like it. I like it especially if you're going out into nature and connecting with the moon. I think that would be like a beautiful use of the energy. You could even just kind of talk to yourself. If it's daytime, you can still consider like, I'm connecting with the moon energy because it's my moon day and I'm out in nature and I know the moon is out in nature. That's one way that it might feel good. But I like Venus or Jupiter or Sun also for connecting with nature. Mars, getting out into nature, especially if you're hiking, I don't like Mars. It feels like an accident.
Well, and especially me.
Yeah, I don't like it. And then Wednesday, maybe get out in nature, or I don't know, I can't remember what day of the week you were born, but Mercury Day, get out into nature, but with a friend so you can talk.
Okay, yeah, that's my Monday.
Because you want to be stimulated on Mercury Day. And on Venus Day, you probably want to be with another person too, honestly. Okay. But yeah. Okay, and yeah.
And that's the other thing that comes up for me a lot, and I'm sure possibly for you women as well, is a lot of times I don't feel safe out in nature as a woman and unable to protect myself. And so there's times where I really battle with that because it's like, oh, I would love to go, to Sonol and go hike, in the back areas where I used to do. And now I'm like, that's holding me back, my safety stuff.
Right.
So I have to figure out that. I have to figure that out.
And hearing that, I would say then avoid moon days for nature. Because I think moon days just give us too much opportunity to tap into emotional stuff. And our safety really is connected to emotions. And so I would just skip a moon day. Unless you were feeling like really supported by someone who was with you.
Right.
Yeah. So the other thing you can do when you're not literally out in nature is to consider how you can connect to your feeling words just in the moment, whatever you're doing for the day. So I lost your feeling words. I can't remember what you said. Oh, connected to your higher power.
Peaceful and hopeful.
Peaceful and hopeful. And then look for little ways that you can basically exploit those feelings in your life. Like, oh, I feel connected to my higher power when I am blowing out a candle. Like, I don't know, whatever it is that just gives you a little feeling of connectedness to something larger than yourself, a certain image that you're looking at, or a type of music. Lying down on the floor while listening to music, could be anything. You can just get there to that feeling state as a little treat. I was saying yesterday, and it sounds dramatic, but let's say that something happens that keeps you from doing the thing that you have on the schedule that you wish for. So before you have a chance to get out into nature, something happens that prevents you. And the worst thing that could happen is that you die and then you don't have the opportunity. So give yourself the chance in any moment to have your desired feelings be real and experienced, so that you're not just looking ahead at something that you'll do next week or 3 months from now, and that you can only have if you get it done. Most of the goals that we're talking about, specifically Suzanne and Christy, is like, these are things that are really pretty accessible. Getting out into nature really is pretty accessible. So it's not totally what I've been talking about. A lot of the goal setting that I see in New Year's resolutions for folks can be a lot about getting a house or a car or losing weight. And that is, to me, feels like really difficult territory and can really set people up for disappointment and not getting to the thing. So it's more applicable for those kinds of goals, like big financial goals, or big material items, to think like, okay, that's nice and great, you should have that, but let's get to the desired feeling first, and then the other thing will come, perhaps. So your goals are just so nice. Your goals are not what I was thinking people would come with. That's because you're so evolved.
Yep.
I was thinking earlier before I got on here that I want to do another one of these, but talking about the voice of intuition versus the fear-based voice of the ego. So I can get really confused you all know me. So I have like these feelings, right? Like, oh, it feels like this thing is going to happen. It's not always logical, but many times I'm right. Like, I had a feeling something was going to happen and it was true. And then when I have a fear pop up that is telling me not to do something because it might not go well, or people might not like it, or whatever the thing is, it's like some kind of negative fear thing. I am tempted to label that as intuition. And it gets interesting. Once in a while, it's true, you have that feeling like you shouldn't you shouldn't get into the car, and then it's because an accident took place just moments later down the street and it prevented you from getting hurt. But when it's like, oh no, they won't like that, or are you sure, blah blah blah, that's never intuition. And I think it'd be fun to unpack that and also do some meditations around it, because at least some of the meditations that I've experienced in Kundalini yoga directly affect the intuition and the third eye, which is just this point right here. But you don't even have to do big or complicated meditations or mantras. You could just sit quietly and pay attention to your breath, and you could take it up a notch by attempting to focus your gaze with your eyes closed at the third eye point. And that puts pressure on the optic nerve that stimulates the pineal gland, which is connected with intuition. So that's a really simple way. Close your eyes, breathe, and look up. Okay, let's keep going. Any questions so far, folks?
For the weekly, what are they? The universal energy of the weekdays. How is that listed somewhere? I guess I could Google that. Huh?
It is. That's in the first. Well, I actually send it to you out of order, but it's phase 1.
Okay.
It's phase 1. So it'll take you through how to look at it and how to look at your own determinant. So once you know the day of the week that you were born, then that's your day 1.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have your thing here. Hold on a second. Let's just find out, because we're doing pretty good with time. It's an interesting sound. Is that Slurpee?
Yes. Yes. Hi, kitty. And Slurpee's so skinny now,
Oh.
so I have to take care of him.
Okay, you were born on a Sunday. So great. That's super easy. That means that
Nice.
your personal days of the week are the same as the universal. So today is your day of the sun. It's a good day to have fun, to do something that is like uses your vitality to manifest or yeah, just have a good time. Saturday, so yesterday was your Saturn day, which is interesting because a lot of people have like parties or celebrations on Saturdays, but that can be a little bit disappointing sometimes. I think some of those events don't actually go that well. And I figure that the way to navigate that is to just take care of your chores in the morning. It's like just take care of whatever, and whatever that is for you. It doesn't mean like you have to do meal prep for the whole week every Saturday. It's like the things that it's the same kind of conversation around whatever you personally think is important and that is your responsibility that you do it. So instead of thinking, oh, I'll do that tomorrow on the last day of the weekend, you do it as much as you can. And if there's a really special thing going on early in the day, do that, of course. I'm not saying like avoid special, wonderful things that are time sensitive. But like if you have the flexibility to like take care of your stuff and then have fun at night and then enjoy Sunday.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then the next day is the moon day. That's on Monday. And that is the reflective and quiet energy. It doesn't really want to be out at work. So it's a bummer that it's the first day of our work week. But I think that giving yourself just some compassion around it, like if you're not feeling Monday, just to be like, this is my pattern. Monday's made for the moon, not for this, but I live here, so this is what I'm doing. And then you just try not to plan anything that requires a lot of energy after the workday. Ideally, Tuesday is the energy of Mars, and that brings a lot of sort of vigor and possibly anger or frustration or irritability. So if you have a lot of energy, but you have to be sitting at a desk, you may find yourself getting annoyed. And that can be uncomfortable, of course. It would be a good day to like run up the stairs. Yeah. So consider that on a Tuesday if you find you're feeling like angry or frustrated, folks, you just be like, oh, well, how can I use the energy that wants to get out? Because it's finding a way out by being frustrated.
Right.
And then Wednesday is the day of Mercury, and that's a good day for meetings and networking, sending communications. Another good day for meetings is Thursday, the day of Jupiter. That is kind of, when I imagine that day and I'm picturing a workplace, I think of someone like giving their presentation for a project or pitching something. It's like a manifesting energy, and it's lucky. I like it. So dulling your light on a Thursday would be a bad idea. Letting yourself shine and be expressive and present and share would be a good idea. And then Friday is the day of Venus, and that's like, it makes sense why people just kind of are not as productive on Fridays. So you just kind of do your best and show up because you're not a flake, and then enjoy the day the best you can. And if you don't have some kind of deadline or a boss over your shoulder, just let yourself coast. I feel like it's just so uncomfortable when we fight that. And then the next day you get to do your chores on Saturn day, and we're back to Sunday day one. So that's how that goes. It flows through the week that way, and then you'll also see the yearly personal energy, which we talked about a little bit, and I mentioned to you that yours is almost matching up with the universal energy because you're just 3 days off based on your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
But that just is looking at the energy throughout the year and what that feels like. And each phase has the same quality as the qualities that I described for the day. So right now, the Saturn period feels like Saturn day, etc. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Christy, are you still here with us?
I am. I'm going to keep you on for as long as I can. I'm just going to drive over to my other meeting.
Oh, okay. And do you have any questions or thoughts, concerns?
No, I think it would be nice to go over like 10 minutes with you about my own personal chart that we did from because I can't really understand it.
Yeah, so I thought it would be nice for you guys to have a copy of your personal chart if you don't have one already. And because I was going to have you figure out what day of the week that you were born on, and the chart shows it, excuse me, I don't know what just happened to my train of thought, that you could get the information kind of all in one space. And we can definitely talk about your chart. But one thing I wanted to bring to your guys' attention about the chart in terms of the astrological weather is the planets that are around the ring. So there's the ring, the pie chart type thing, or pieces of pie that you can see within the circle. What's inside of it is what was happening at the moment of your birth. And then on the outside of the chart, you can see planets around the ring. And I believe astro.com puts those planets in green. And that is showing the planetary action of the moment and how it relates to your chart. So it's pretty cool. I think I'm looking at Emily's right now. You can see, of course, I think it's cool. I don't know if everybody thinks this is cool. But for instance, the moon moves quickly. The moon moves through a different sign every 2.5 days. And so the moon is just about to come out of Aquarius and move into Pisces. You're not going to be able to see this. But on the chart, then you can see what it's going to line up with. That's in the inner ring. That is your own energy signature. So the moon, Emily, is going to be transiting over your Venus in Pisces. Ooh, this is really pretty. Okay, so the moon is going to move over your personal Venus, which is in Pisces, and then it's going to be conjunct Venus, which is in Pisces right now. So that's kind of special. And Neptune is conjunct Venus. So we've got this dreamy quality of Neptune and the loving, beautiful quality of Venus, both in Pisces, where they're comfortable. They're both comfortable there. So Venus is exalted in Pisces and Neptune lives there. Being exalted means it's like the energy being brought up to its highest potential. And the moon is going to be joining it. So I see the moon or feel it as like intuition. And this is going to be applicable to all of us because that planetary action I just described is going to happen. The way that it lines up with Emily is a little bit different just based on what she has on her inner rings. But that sweetness and romance is going to be available to all of us. It's already happening. No, wait, I think the conjunction happens tomorrow, but the vibe is already here. It's dreamy, it's loving, it's poetic. I'm in a group where people are writing poetry every day. And then I was and that's on Facebook. And then I had a in real life experience last night where this woman told me she's been writing poems every day and she's not related to that at all. She's just doing it. And I feel like it's related to this thing. She started it 4 days ago. It feels relevant to the Venus and Pisces action that's happening. So that's kind of a cool tool to use if you're wondering, like, wow, this full moon feels really potent for me. What the heck? And then you look and you're like, oh, it's like lining up with my own moon, or it's lining up with my Pluto or something. You can go like, well, that makes sense. But Christy, I can help you to learn how to look at and read your chart later this week.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let me return to my notes. So, thinking about goal setting and feeling the way that you want to feel, considering the energy that's available universally and personally, and then also just if you're getting used to maybe some of the archetypal imagery for the signs, you could consider, what do I want to do? So it's Aquarius season. What do I want to do that is in alignment with the energy of the now? And I wrote down some ideas of just to kind of tie into daily life, how you can start looking at just normal things that you do and consider scheduling them with some intention around the energy that you know is at hand. So some of these are more obvious than others. Scheduling a trip, you could be considering the energy of the day. I don't think I'd really like to travel necessarily on my Saturn day. I definitely wouldn't want to travel on my Mars day during a Mercury retrograde. So some of those things you can take into consideration. Scheduling then the activities that will support the way that you want to feel. Scheduling in concrete steps, particularly during the waxing moon. And you can take concrete steps at any time, but you're just supported by that gaining energy of the moon when you're trying to make something or take steps. So the energy supports you in that way. Sometimes concrete steps are like signing up for a class, like literally doing the online registration, or getting a nice way to use Saturn energy. If you need to get a license or a permit, it's a good time now that we're moving into Saturn to focus on stuff like that. Do your taxes. Please don't wait to do your taxes until sun season. That's such a waste of the sun. Just do them before the equinox. Because you may as well. Like, the energy supports that kind of annoying administrative work. Just do it. And then you'll be so happy that it's over. I mean, I guess depending on the outcome, but you'll be so happy when the sun comes out that you get to play in the sun. And imagine how sad you would be in like the first beautiful day and you're just like doing your taxes because it's April 15th and you are a procrastinator.
That's how I do my taxes.
Me too. I changed. That's like how I did taxes forever until I was married to a Cancer that really liked to do things right away and get them done. And he helped. That was conditioning that was good for me, though, because it's really nice to get that stuff done.
Yeah.
Let's see. Scheduling when to clean out your closets. Obviously, during Saturn is a good time to let stuff go away. Also during a waning moon. So after the moon is full on February 9th, it'll start to shrink. It gets to its fullness and then it starts to go away. And that's a great time to clean stuff out or release something. Or let's say you've been considering not eating something. If you suspect that something you're eating is causing you physical distress, then during the waning moon, so not right now, in a couple weeks is when you would explore that. I knew that I wanted to get back to not eating meat. And I just waited, though, until the moon started to shrink again. I waited until 111 and then I stopped. Because I just felt like it would be too hard for me to try to do it before. And it was after that my family finally stopped being sick. So it was true. It was easier because I could start thinking about, all right, well, now how am I going to eat? Adding something new in during this time is good. If you've been meaning to like drink a morning smoothie, or if you haven't been eating breakfast, it's a good time to bring something like that back in, or starting a new supplement that you have been wanting to try to support yourself, it's a good time to add. Or even starting a new exercise thingy. We're adding right now. Adding things in. We're gaining. Volunteering is something you might want to schedule if through volunteering you can feel connected to other people. And for me, that helps to connect back to the higher power. So scheduling some of the volunteer time, which Christy is already doing, and making sure that you're scheduling, like, okay, schedule your self-care. Schedule things that feel good to you. They are just as important as the other stuff. Like everything's important. It's not more important. Having fun is not more important than taking care of stuff that needs to be done, but it's just as important. It should make it on your calendar. And if you don't get to it, you should look at it and go, oh, no, I missed that. I need to get that in and find it and make it. Put it in there. Put it in there. Take care of yourself. There is nobody other than me who is going to be trying to force you to take care of yourself. And I do not live with you. Like, I can't make it happen on a daily level. Like, your husband is probably not going to do it. He's probably not. He's going to think you're fine. He is. It's just, he can't help because you're so wonderful. And it's really confusing for him to imagine that, like, you need him to help you to take care of yourself because you're so great that he thinks you're, like, already doing it, right? Okay. Also a realistic consideration of energy and resources. And this isn't to say that you can't manifest whatever abundance that you want. That's not what I mean. But in terms of what's available to you in the now and time as a resource. So this connects to scheduling and your self-care and your leisure time that feels good, is to be realistic. Like, it's not, time will not appear randomly somewhere else on that bonus 8th day. It's not, although it is a leap year. Okay, so we do have one bonus day this year, but time won't magically appear somewhere else. So being realistic about the things that you have signed up for and what you're planning to do with your time from a yogic perspective in terms of the energy bodies. The mind has 3, and we've got the negative mind, the positive mind, and the neutral mind. And my positive mind is overactive. I use it too much. I am very enthusiastic and positive, but one way that harms me is by thinking that I have more resources and time available than I really do. And then I end up in this position where I've let myself or someone else or some event or responsibility down. So being realistic about what you have, and that doesn't mean necessarily to tap into the negative mind to look for all of the wrong things or why something won't work, but actually the neutral mind that can see it for what it is, which means that you might have to say no to something. Once you get to the neutral mind, it might show you that, whoop, we just don't have that. We just don't have that available. It's not really a big deal. If you say yes to something that you are not available for, and then the thing comes around and you can't do it, that becomes the problem, right? Because you've said yes and then you can't do the thing. And then you feel guilty and someone's confused by your behavior and you make a face and then you think about it all the time. Then you run into them in the grocery store and you're thinking, is she mad at me because I didn't come to the potluck and bring the kale salad? But you don't say that. Instead, your face just looks like a bitch. And she's like, oh, what's her problem? So don't let that happen to you. It's a true story.
That happened to you. You didn't bring the kale salad.
I didn't even go. I think, and in that case, I feel like the real answer would have been, oh, I'd love to come because I really want to be a part of this, but I don't have the bandwidth to bring anything. And then the person Like if you're speaking to folks like an adult like that and being honest because you have a genuine desire, but you know you actually can't help or be a contributing person, then you can put it on them. Then they have to answer you as an adult. And if it's not okay with them that you don't bring something, it would be their responsibility to say, oh, maybe next time. I hope you can come to the next one. And we can start, it's cool. You start being really honest with yourself. You start expecting other people to be honest too. And you don't take their stuff on. They may actually start mirroring you. Imagine then you can begin to trust that people are saying what they mean. And you don't have to feel bad when you accept help because they're saying, oh, I can help you with that. And you go, I know, yeah, that would feel really good. And I know that they actually can because they said so. But if we're in the position where we're saying yes to everything because we think that we have to, and inside we're crying because we're so tired and we're lying. And then we don't trust anything that comes from someone else.
I'm all too familiar with that game.
I know. Is that so? That's like being in positive mind. Like that's an overactive positive mind.
Going back and forth. It's the saying yes too much is positive mind. But what usually ends up happening is that because you've sold yourself out and you're not in alignment with what's right for you, then things go wrong. And then negative mind comes in.
It becomes a no. Yeah.
It becomes a no. It becomes you flake out. It becomes you using your negative mind to judge that person, to explain to yourself your behavior of why you didn't show up. And your negative mind doesn't want to think about how you actually made an error in saying yes. Is my connection okay?
It got a little weird there, but
okay. It's okay now. Okay.
But now, yeah.
So once the negative mind is done with being mean to the person or group or whatever, it will turn on you too. And it'll just go back and forth. Well, that's because you're actually lazy. That's why you didn't do it. And you completely forget. Neutral mind is like, no, your kid just had a virus. You had to do 4 loads of laundry. Neutral mind knows that you were doing everything you could. But when positive mind and negative mind are ruling, it's just going kind of back and forth. I'm positive mind dominant. But when things begin to go wrong, negative mind comes in to try to help me feel better by talking shit about other people. But it's not actually looking out for me because it'll turn on me too. It's like, it's a war zone in there. But the meditation and breath and the yoga is really helping with the neutral mind, which is like the secret sauce because you're not in trouble in the neutral mind. And other people aren't either. They're just doing the thing. In the 5 sutras for the Aquarian age, the first one is recognize that the other person is you. And in that way, you can just look at folks. Kind of fun to look at people and try to guess which mind they're in. When they're talking and be like, that sounds like positive mind talking. And then you know that they're not like a liar. When you are doing your positive mind stuff, even though you might be signing up for something, I did call us liars before, and it is a lie in a sense, but it's not you're not a liar like the way that we think of liars as being bad. It's not evil. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It just doesn't have limits, which then leads us over to negativity. And the negative mind in and of itself isn't bad either, because the negative mind actually presents information about why something might not work. And that can be very useful, especially if you're staying in the neutral mind. Oh, it's true. I might not want to throw a party on my Saturn day. The no that comes in through that, it is from the negative mind. But that's not the ruler. The neutral mind says, that's true, that is your Saturn day, but it's the universal Venus day. So take that into consideration. Like seeing everything, right? But actually the positive mind showed you the positive, but the neutral mind gives you the chance to weigh it, to weigh your choices so that you're not just like bouncing around like a ping pong ball.
Hey, Liz, I'm going to say goodbye now to everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a wonderful
Bye,
day.
Bye,
Okay.
Christy.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, she's gone.
Oh.
Okay, so what else?
Yeah, what else?
Let's see if there's anything. Oh, saving money. Saving money is good during Saturn time that we're in right almost. And considering sometimes that saving money actually supports your goal, depending on what it is. For me, this is really relevant. Emily, probably for you, that's relevant since you're looking for work to save money.
Yeah.
Scheduling in networking. We've talked about that a little bit, using the Mercury day.
Mercury day is Wednesday.
Yeah. Continuing education. A good day for learning is Jupiter day, which is Thursday for the universal.
What's Tuesday?
Mars.
Mars, Mercury.
Tuesday is
Jupiter,
a great day to do something that gets you sweaty. Like cardio or sex, hiking, whatever way you like to get your blood pumping. Tuesday would be a great day for that. And that would help with getting some of the, starting out the day would be ideal because you get out some of that energy that might show up later if you're not channeling it properly. That might show up as frustration or anger, or if it doesn't come through that way, sometimes accidents even happen. I'm pretty sure that some of the ways that I've processed or channeled Mars energy improperly, and I'm definitely like a Mars dominant person, is through all the accidents that I've had. If you think about it, it's really remarkable. It's like, why has this person had so many like falling down accidents, getting rear-ended, like all kinds of stuff? I feel like that's Mars energy that was being repressed. And that to me also feels like navel work. So for yoga, Mabi Kriya, Suzanne, is a good, it takes about 45 minutes, I think, if you do the full thing. But I usually cut it in half and do it for like 22 minutes if I'm going to do it at home. And I'm
The
Nabi Kriya, Nabhi.
Yeah,
And
your mom has texted me the whole sequence.
it's so good because
Yeah.
it strengthens the navel, and particularly for women, this is an area that we, as soon as it has any roundness, and for me it was from the time I was a small child, I always had this like little poochy belly thing that I felt like wasn't appropriate. And I mean, I went from having no idea about my body, and probably in a good way, just being completely oblivious, to then just having negative feelings about my stomach. Like that's the first thing I remember about knowing I had a body, like being aware of it. And
I know.
I'm
Yeah.
still dealing with like this tension around the shape of my belly. One thing that's been challenging in yoga is when they're breathe into it and make it expand. It's like, no, it's hard to relax. But then I also have this thing where it's almost numb, like not touching it, not engaging with it so often that I almost don't even feel that part of my body unless I'm really being intentional. And Nabi Kriya is a very intentional way to connect to your navel, in a great way to use Martian energy.
I just detach from my body a lot. Like that's one of the reasons why I want to do the daily yoga practice, or just, just a daily movement practice, is it is just so easy for me to I just like forget to feed myself, forget to like feel in my body. It just,
I
guess normal, but
Yep, I can relate to that.
Comfortable, right? Here's a fun tip. If you or someone you know needs to schedule surgery, have them avoid full moon and new moon days. And ideally, it would be done on a waning moon because a lot of times surgery is removing something.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
So waning moon energy is ideal, but not on a full moon or new moon. You don't want to have all that crazy full moon energy when you're going under the knife. You don't. Well, we have some eclipses that we didn't talk about. So they're listed on your sheet. We've already had one. We don't have another eclipse until June, but we'll have a lunar eclipse and then a solar eclipse and another lunar eclipse in June and July. And a lot of times these eclipses do happen in clusters like that. Then the next experience we'll have will be November and December for a lunar and solar eclipse. And it's kind of similar to retrograde energy in that what would normally be a full moon is blocked by the shadow of the earth. So that light that we're used to getting from a full moon at that time is blocked. And it just creates a distortion or a fog, perhaps. It can just kind of be a funky time, so it's good to keep those in mind. It can be intense. For me, these eclipses are usually intense. I've had situations multiple times where because of an eclipse, my menstrual cycle has completely flipped. And it's so weird when it happens. And I'm getting more used to it because I used to think that there was something wrong with me. But now it's just like, oh, I've done the eclipse flip again. Okay. Another notable thing that is pretty fun is that we have a blue moon, which is when there is 2 full moons in 1 month.
Oh.
And that happens on Halloween.
Ooh.
It's a full moon in Taurus on Halloween. So
Earth
I would just say you're going to eat a lot of candy. Or your kid may eat a lot of candy. I don't know what's going to happen. Taurus likes to eat. But maybe you could have it be sensual instead. So once the candy festivities are over, just give your partner a massage or something.
You can melt all the candy all over you.
Melt the candy all over you. Yeah. Well, if you folks don't have anything, I think we covered all of the content. So we could just look at each other. Maybe you'll think of a question.
I don't know if I have a question.
I don't know either.
Emily, when you start to go through the other stuff, let me know if you have questions about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look.
The first one, like I said, was the planetary phases through
the list
days of the week. I sent you the list, but also it says phase 1. And for Suzanne, it said week 1, but I changed it for you so that you wouldn't feel like a time thing was negative. I put some suggestions for when to do it. There's one exercise, which was week 2 or phase 2, that is releasing some of the negative stuff that you're consuming in terms particularly of social media or any media. So what you're watching and who you're socializing with, taking a look at that during a waning moon would be a good time to release. So after the full moon, maybe going into your Instagram account and unfollowing accounts that you're like, why did I even, this just makes me feel bad. Or it's just consumerism or, something that doesn't actually make you feel good. So that you're left with what is feeding you instead of harming you.
Right.
Also around those times with folks that personal interactions that may not be good for you, instead of just cutting people out of your life, that's not what I'm suggesting. Although in some cases that is a healthy choice, but to just try out asserting some new boundaries and see how that goes. And sometimes it's the kind of thing you can do through having a conversation, or maybe it's just something you explore by yourself and they're not in on it. If you're like, well, what if I just, if when I get a text from Nancy, I don't reply right away, especially if I have that like feeling come up like of tension or something. And my new thing is that I wait a full meal. So if it comes in at lunch, I'm not going to consider replying until it's dinner time, and then just make sure that I'm replying from a centered place, that kind of thing.
It's a good
So
idea.
it's gentle. It's not violent removal, but
Yeah. We'll end up not expecting a fast response, so that'll be nice.
yeah, right? I've been thinking about some of the ways that I respond to my phone, and I think like the texting somehow makes it seem, it's like you should reply quickly to texts because it just doesn't take that long, although it can really throw you off. But then other notifications give you that same feeling somehow, like that you should be responding. And I've just been kind of looking at that like, I don't know about that. And it used to be that someone would call me at home and leave a voicemail, and I wouldn't hear it until I was done doing the thing in life, you know?
Right?
So I've been exploring being slower about that. Because I previously only had 2 speeds, which is pretty much reply immediately or procrastinate and never reply. But that didn't feel good either. So
Mine might depend on the person.
right?
Yeah.
Someone like JT, she'll need one right away.
Well, and that's her need.
Yeah.
So
I'll do what I want.
yeah, and with love, right? Like, because she doesn't really want you to reply to her quickly if it's really better for you to do what you're doing and get back to her later. And most of the time, people don't really need information from you right away. Most of the time.
Most of the time.
And sometimes they do. Like if you need, I had a situation where we were locked out of the yoga building where we're doing the teacher training because we'd been given the code from the year before, and I guess they change it every year. But it was 4:00 in the morning and we were locked outside and it was cold. It's November. And I was really grateful that the person we were texting was replying right away. So in that case, it was really helpful that she replied right away. But
it's really early to be locked outside.
it was quite unpleasant. The person who was supposed to be leading the morning sadhana for us forgot about it.
Oh, shoot.
But it was kind of cool because then we did it ourselves once we got in. Students, we just did it. Probably it wasn't right, but it was close. Okay, folks.
Okay.
That's all she wrote. If you have any questions that come up, just be in touch.
Okay. And then, so this recording is available now?
It will not be available until it's done uploading, but I will send, probably it'll be like a link to it and not the actual. It's going to be a big puppy, but yeah. And I'm not going to share it with anyone else. No one else ended up. There was someone who I thought was going. Well, there might be one person. My cousin Tori actually might watch the recording, but I'm not going to like send it to randos or anything.
Thanks. Basically giving you a tour of my house. So.
All right. Thank you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Okay. I will.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.